As I said a little bit earlier, this is Peter Leiner. I'm here today with Dr. Judy Sloop. We're going to be discussing HIPAA compliance when communicating through email. We thank everybody who's on the webinar at this point, and for those of you that come in a little later, you won't be hearing this introduction. While this isn't legal advice, it should be good information to help you ensure HIPAA compliance when utilizing your email. As a starting point, we just want to go over a brief overview of HIPAA. So what is HIPAA? HIPAA stands for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act and was created to ensure that patients' confidential health information remains both protected from disclosure and available to patients when needed. The next question is, who is covered by HIPAA? I think we're all on this webinar because we're covered entities, but the HIPAA rule applies to covered entities and business associates. What does HIPAA require of us? Under HIPAA, all of us as covered entities or business associates must comply with the Act's requirements to protect the privacy and security of health information and must provide individuals with certain rights with respect to access to their health information. It sounds simple, but unfortunately it is a lot more complex and causes constant headaches. Obviously, because of the complexity of the Act, we can't cover everything in an hour. We probably couldn't cover it if we sat here for a week straight. So today we're going to focus solely on using email in your practice and how it can lead to compliance issues and fines for unlawful disclosure of protected health information. While this information should be helpful, we highly recommend that your organizations retain independent consultants to confirm HIPAA compliance and conduct HIPAA audits and risk assessments. You should also be putting together written policies and procedures to ensure that your organization is protected from potential exposure of protected health information. So the first place we're going to start with is the unknowing violation of HIPAA when communicating through email. I personally have always had this idea that when I send an email, the only person who would ever see it is the recipient. I imagine a lot of you have this secure feeling that it won't be read by anyone other than the intended recipient. This comfort and belief is where potential HIPAA violations begin. The easiest way to violate HIPAA is to send an email from an email provider, whether it be Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, or any of the other providers out there that you don't have a business associate agreement with. If you're sitting there right now asking yourself, what is a business associate agreement? You should highly consider retaining a HIPAA consultant immediately. If you don't have a business associate agreement in place with your email provider, you are 100% violating HIPAA requirements. This is not a question. This is a guarantee. HIPAA expressly requires any party you share protected health information with to execute a business associate agreement. To be clear, when you send an email, you are sharing it with your email service provider in a manner that requires a BAA, which again is going to be a business associate agreement, to be in place. Some of you are probably sitting there thinking to yourself, I have a BAA in place with my email provider and I'm good to go. Unfortunately, like all things when dealing with HIPAA, it is not that simple. Even if you have a BAA in place with your email provider, that doesn't mean you avoid potential liability for a HIPAA violation when sending emails. During the transmission of an email, the message is copied multiple times on email servers before it reaches its intended recipient. Even encrypted, there is no way to completely recall or delete the email, and should the mobile device that you send the email or the one which it is received be stolen or lost, the content of the email can easily be accessed. This email transmission process means that as the email travels to the intended recipient's email server, a copy is made. If the email recipient's email provider is one you do not have a BAA with, you just provided protected health information to a third party and opened your organization up to potential fines. So the moment you send an email, you risk disclosing protected health information to a third party. Keep in mind that a receiver of these emails is not liable. It is the sender of the email. So moving forward, to comply with HIPAA emails, you must have encryption. In today's age, most email providers are going to provide free encryption. However, just because an email is encrypted does not mean it is HIPAA compliant. A great example of this is a Gmail account that you are not paying for. This is likely non-compliant for two reasons. First, if you are not paying for the Gmail account, you likely do not have a BAA in place. As we discussed, this is an immediate violation. You must have a BAA in place with your email provider. The second reason is that Google expressly provides that its free email accounts are not HIPAA compliant. So if you're using a free account, you likely have issues and should consider immediately ceasing any further use of that email. The question becomes, should I ever use an email? And I'm going to give you an answer that every lawyer will agree with and that every lawyer has been taught. If you only take one note, take this answer down. I'm guessing you're all ready to type or write, so here we go. Should you ever use an email to communicate about protected health information? The lawyer says, it depends. First, we will start with emailing patients. HIPAA allows covered entities and their business associates to communicate protected health information with patients through email and text under two situations. The first is that the emails and texts are encrypted or otherwise secure. An example of this type of communication would be utilizing a patient portal like the one available on CentralReach. The CentralReach patient portal provides you a completely secure communication method with your patients. We highly recommend that your organizations take advantage of this HIPAA compliant system to avoid any potential HIPAA violations when communicating with patients. The second option is for you if you elect not to utilize a secure patient portal or other secure emailing service. Under the second option, organizations or business associates can first warn patients that the communication is not secure and give the patient the right to elect to communicate via unsecured email or text. Again, you must get the client's consent. You cannot just send them unsecured emails. A good procedure to follow when dealing with a patient emailing or texting through an unsecured method for the first time is to open a new email and inform the patient of the potential disclosure of protected health information when using the unsecured method of communication. Make sure you get the patient's approval to communicate through the unsecure message of communication. Another method is to have patients execute an acknowledgement of this risk at the time you initially sign the client up. No matter the method, after you get approval, make sure you document the approval in case there is ever an issue at a later time. Just a note, while you are allowed to communicate with the patient if you follow those steps that I just laid out through an unsecured means, you're required to provide some form of secure communication. It is not enough to just get the client to say, you can email me. You have to give them options. As I previously mentioned, CentralReach provides a patient portal that avoids the potential disclosure of protected health information. It is highly recommended that you use this feature as it is meant to prevent potential liability for your organizations. Moving on, when it comes to communicating with non-patients, such as with CentralReach staff, the covered entity or business associate must generally ensure that its emails or texts comply with relevant privacy and security rule standards. This means there must be end-to-end encryption, that emails must remain protected after being received, and that protected health information must not be disclosed to third parties. Failing to communicate via encrypted email may subject you to civil penalties for violating HIPAA. We talked about using a secure email and what that entails earlier, but the quickest way to find yourself in trouble is not to have a business associate agreement with your provider. At CentralReach, it is our goal never to communicate regarding protected health information outside of the CentralReach messaging system. The CentralReach messaging system has end-to-end encryption, password-protected accounts, and requires very specific recipient information to ensure that the proper party receives the protected health information. So now we're going to get to the fun part of all this. What are the fines for a HIPAA violation? HIPAA violations come in 4 categories based on culpability. The more culpable, the higher the potential fine. Sending emails through unencrypted email or without a business associate agreement in place will likely qualify as a Category 3 violation. A Category 3 violation is one that occurs as a result of willful neglect. What this is really saying is that a violation will be considered a Category 3 violation if it is a conscious, intentional failure or reckless indifference to the obligation to comply with the administrative provisions. So misusing an email is likely going to qualify as a Category 3 violation. What does that mean to you? Very simply, it means trouble. Right now, if you're thinking it can't be significant trouble since we're talking about sending an email, you are wrong. A Category 3 violation has a minimum fine of $10,000 per violation with a maximum fine of $50,000. That means every email you send could leave your organization open to fines of up to $50,000. Just think about that. Let that sink in. A $50,000 fine for a single email is possible. So how is CentralReach addressing these potential HIPAA violations? At CentralReach, we have instituted a protocol to follow if we receive an email outside the CentralReach platform that contains protected health information. Keeping the above potential for significant fines in mind, Central staff have been trained never to respond to emails containing protective health information that are sent to their @centralreach.com email addresses. If you want to communicate with the CentralReach staff member directly, you should use the CentralReach messaging system built into the platform. Dr. Sloop will go over the proper method to communicate with CentralReach staff at the end of this presentation. But before we get there, we wanted to let you know our procedure for addressing emails sent outside the CentralReach platform. Instead of responding to an email sent outside the CentralReach platform, CentralReach staff will follow a 7-point protocol to address the email. Our staff will identify to their supervisor the organization sending protected health information so that it can be addressed with the organization's compliance officer. A little later, probably sometime next week, you're going to get an email requesting your organization's compliance officer. Please give us that information. We want to help protect your organization and make sure that you eliminate potential HIPAA violations. The second step in the protocol will be to respond to your email on the CentralReach platform through the secure messaging system. We're not going to just disregard your question. However, we're going to respond to it in a HIPAA compliant manner. The third step will be to delete the email from their inbox. The fourth step will be to open the trash inbox, select the email containing the protected health information, and delete the email forever. The fifth step will be to open a new email and reply to the client through that email. That email is not going to be a reply to the initial question. It is simply going to indicate that you need to move your emails to the CentralReach platform and that a response has been provided through the CentralReach platform. The final step is going to be to disclose the potential HIPAA violation to the organization's compliance officer. Again, the reason we want to do this is to make sure that your organizations rectify potential violations, that you're aware of what's going on, and that in the future we don't cross this path. The system being implemented by CentralReach is not only there to protect CentralReach, but is also there to ensure that organizations stay in compliance and don't face claims of HIPAA violations. It is recommended that your organization also implement a protocol on how to handle emails containing protected health information to avoid a potential HIPAA violation. Your organization should use the CentralReach platform messaging system to avoid any unnecessary exposure. This is for communication with CentralReach staff. This is for communication within your organization. In addition, you should have policies and procedures in place to ensure that your organization is not subject to an action by the Office of Civil Rights for HIPAA violations. What we're talking about today is a substantial issue. So it was a pleasure to speak to you, and now it's my pleasure to turn the webinar over to Dr. Judy Sloop to discuss the power of CentralReach to maintain HIPAA compliance. For just a moment, we're going to place this on pause while Dr. Sloop sets up. Thank you for the...
Hi everybody, this is Dr. Sloop. I just want to follow up on what Peter shared with you. He gave you kind of the legal rules and all of that behind the scenes, and now I want to show you in CentralReach how we ensure basic HIPAA compliance. And really today what we're going to focus on is communication. We know there's a lot more that we need to talk about in terms of HIPAA, document storage, all kinds of things, but for right now we're just going to focus on communication. And the first thing I want to go over with you is just kind of the basics. So starting out, the one thing we want to talk about is when you first come into CentralReach. Well, there's a couple things we want to make sure. When you first come in, say you just got you got signed up, or even if you have a new employee, we want to make sure that they change their password when they first come in. And it may be that you set up, and we'll look at that in a moment, that you require your employees to change their password after a certain period of time, which is always a recommendation. But the way to do that is, as I just showed, whatever account you're in, whether it's your organizational account or it's one of your employees or one of the employees out there, in your own account, you come up to the top corner, click on the name of your, whether it's your name or the organization's name up here on the top right, then you come to this screen. And under Profile, you'll see Login and Access. And that's where I'm going to go. And that's where I can come in and I can change my password. The password now requires some specifics, and you'll see that's changed a little bit. We've made the password a lot more secure. So you will have to, when you change your password, make it more secure than maybe you had in the past. But you can come in here, and depending on how your organization has things set up, you may need to change your password on a regular basis. And this is where you would come to do that. In addition, we were just talking about the settings that your organization makes. If I come back up into here and I come over to settings, I can come down and look at a couple of things. I can look under here where it says additional settings. And this is something that your organization sets up. So this is more for the people that are in your organizational account. But this is where you would come in and choose how often a password would expire, and also how quickly CentralReach will time out when there's no activity going on. For HIPAA reasons, we recommend 15 minutes. So that means that for 15 minutes, nothing is happening on the screen. You'll be logged out and you'll have to log back in. Now that's especially important depending on where the computer is, where you're set up. But in most cases, that's the recommendation. Many people don't choose that. There are options here for you, but that is the recommendation. The other possibility we have here is the password expiration, and you can set that however you want. Again, oh, okay, one moment. It sounds like the screen isn't showing. Let me find out what's going on. Give me one moment, everybody. We're checking to see why you're not seeing. Okay, I think you should be able to see it now. Sorry about that. Let me back up a little bit. I'll go through this really quickly one more time. We've got it. So is everybody seeing the screen now? Can you say, okay, good, I see it now. Sorry about that. We hit the button, but for some reason it didn't go through the way it should have. Okay, let's back up a little bit. So I'm going to back up a little bit and go to where he was. Yeah, so here we go. If we go back up to the top here, so the things that I was talking about, you would go up to your name, whether you're an employee and that's your personal name, or you're in the organization, you go to the top right, you come into basically your account information, which is here, and then you're going to go to settings. And actually, what I did first, I'll go there first. Under Profile is where you can log in, and this is where you would change your password. And here the password is requires a little more complexity than it did in the past, so we've made it more secure. So you'll notice when you change your password, you have to make it a little more complex than maybe you had in the past. And then the password, how often you have to set that, is set up under your account also. I'm going back to the beginning just to show you the steps. And you would come over into actual settings. And this is where, all the way at the bottom here, you'll see additional settings. This is where your organization can determine how often they want to how frequent they want your password to expire, so they can choose a date range. They also, what we feel is very important, what I was saying, and I'm showing you, is that the timeout time. So how long can you leave your CentralReach account open without any activity before it times out? And that we do recommend 15 minutes. Of course, that's up to your organization to make that decision. Okay, so now I think we're back where we were. So in terms of what we were talking about and what Peter talked about in terms of communication between you and CentralReach, we do have our messaging. And our messaging is a great way to get messages within your system between your employees, as well as between your employees and your clients. So say I come in and I want to compose a new message and I want to send it out to one of my employees. What they will see is, I'm just going to show you what it looks like. They're not going to get all of the information. So say you've included a document or something in there that you want them to see. What they're going to see is basically, sorry, my internet's acting a little crazy right now. What they're going to see is, sorry, we're having a little technical difficulty. There we are. I just put a picture of it in here to show you. What they'll get in their email account is basically a notification saying, hello, whoever the employee or the client is, you have a new message from whoever the organization is, log into your account to view the full details of the message. So they're basically going to get a message telling them log in, and then they can pick up whatever information you sent them, whether it's a report you're sharing with them, whether it's some other information, any protected health information that you don't want to send via email, you can send this message and they can log in and get that information quickly within a HIPAA compliant manner. Okay, so that's our messaging. The next thing that we wanted to talk about is there are times when I do, or some of us here as customer success managers might receive an email from someone that says, having trouble with this client's billing entry and this is happening and that's happening. And what's really helpful to us and what will really ensure HIPAA compliance is that we, as Peter was saying, sending that information via email is not the safest way. Some people will just use client IDs or use information that is not as that wouldn't be as much of a HIPAA violation, but the best way for you to really get that information to us, because it's the most HIPAA compliant manner when you're having a question, is through our support tickets. And when you send us a support ticket, I'm just going to do this really quickly. So support tickets you can get to here. When you want to send us a new support ticket, the quickest way probably, again, is to go up to your account and open a support ticket. And what happens when you do this is you can choose what it is. So say you're having an issue and you can't figure out what's happening and you're in the billing module and you're going to type in here whatever's happening. You can put client information. You can upload documents here. You can upload screenshots. You can also, what happens though when you send this is it's going to give us an actual screenshot of what's happening in your account. So for example, say I'm in my billing screen, and this is my test account, so there's no HIPAA violation possible here, so because it's all just made up data. So say I'm in my test account and I'm looking at last month's billing, go into last month, and I'm having a problem with one of my entries. So say it's this one right here. Something doesn't look right with this entry and I don't know what I did wrong, or something isn't working the way I expect it to work. If I come in here and I go ahead and I open a support ticket from right here, what happens is that I get on this end at CentralReach, we get a screenshot of this. We see exactly the screen you're on. We see all of the information that's here. And as well, we get the URL up here and we get some background information kind of behind the scenes, what browser you're working in, all kinds of things that are going to help us determine what's going on with this ticket. And it's going to help us resolve your question much more quickly. Sometimes we get an email, then it's back and forth trying to get more information, trying to figure out exactly what it is. And again, the really great thing about this is not only that we get all this information, but it's that all of that information is completely protected because you're staying within CentralReach and within the platform where HIPAA compliance is safe. One last point I wanted to bring up about in terms of communication, it's another piece of things, is that for some of you, you have things set up in your system called providers, and we have network providers. And network providers are typically used for therapists that might be outside of CentralReach, or it might be a physician that you're working with, but somebody that isn't within your CentralReach organization, it's somebody that you're working with outside. So it might be a speech therapist that doesn't work for your organization, but maybe is working with the same child you're working with, and you want to share some documents back and forth. Again, you can do this within CentralReach in a HIPAA secure manner by making them part of the client's provider network. And then that way you can share information with them in a safe, secure manner. Again, avoiding that communication via email, which could be insecure in terms of HIPAA compliance. So those are the main points we wanted to talk about. I'm just going to peek really quick because we have a lot of questions coming through and see if there's anything specific that I can help you out with right now. Let's look. And we have quite a few participants, so we have a lot of questions. So I'm not sure how many we'll get through, but if we don't get to them today, we will be able to follow up with you and get answers to you. Okay, if you're unable to access the additional settings, you may not be in your organizational account. So if you need to be in the organizational account to be able to address those additional settings. So you might want to talk to your administrative person, whoever is in that organizational account, and they'll be able to help you out with that. If your managers, we have a question about managers creating and knowing all the passwords. Now that's an organizational decision. In most cases, we recommend that you as the user would go in and change your password, but that would be something that you would have to talk to your organization owner about. Okay, I see another question about accidentally CCing a client on a message. Okay, to a staff member.
This is something that actually goes to having policies and procedures in place. And the way we address that at CentralReach is ensuring that the subject line doesn't contain HIPAA information, and ensuring that the receivers and parties being CC'd are the intended parties. Now, there isn't a method where we can eliminate who gets an email or gets a message through the CR platform. That is something you need to teach your employees to check and double check to ensure that they're not sending protected health information to unintended recipients.
Yeah, so I think one of the things we're going to talk about, I just see one question about file storage, and actually that was something I was going to kind of finish up with. One of the things that we do want to talk about on a future webinar, we probably couldn't get into all of it today, but is the ability in CentralReach to keep all of your files safe and secure. And that is going to be kind of a future topic. We've had a lot of interest in this whole area, so we're kind of mapping out a couple of additional CentralReach webinars on that specific area, because we do know that whether it be that you have clinicians maybe documenting notes, their clinical notes in a Word document on their laptop, and they bring their laptop home, and then one of their kids is using their laptop, all of that becomes a real HIPAA concern, as well as things like data collection where you're storing data in an Excel spreadsheet, and maybe that's on your home computer and somebody else is using that. All of those things become HIPAA concerns. So we're going to talk a lot about file storage and about documentation and all of those areas that are another whole area that we need to look at. We wanted to focus more on the communication piece, but absolutely that will be something we'll be discussing in future webinars. No, so typically when you're sending an email, recommendation, again, is any emails that you send to us, we wouldn't recommend that you put any client information in there. Again, that's why we recommend doing it through messaging or doing it through a support ticket if you have a specific question, or using an encrypted email, because any protected health information should really not be sent via any email that's outside, as Peter recommended earlier. Yeah, we have a question about a business associates agreement, and CentralReach does sign a business associates agreement as part of the contracting process when we are connected with you. So there should be one with your organization for all of you out there. And I see a question. I see an idea for the ideas portal, and about maybe some information. And I would absolutely. If you have an idea about maybe a way to increase HIPAA compliance or avoid maybe something happening, sure, pop it into the ideas portal. And that's a great place. Hopefully all of you know about that. I'm just going to show you really quick while I'm on the screen here. If you do have something that you think would be helpful, while we're here, I'll just mention it. So again, in your account, you go to my account, you'll see something that says submit an idea. And this is a great place to come in. So if you have an idea about something that you think might help with HIPAA compliance or something that you might help in that area, you just hop into the submitted idea and it takes you to our ideas portal. And here you can add in a new idea and just pop it in there. And then if people vote on it, it's a great way for you then to be able to And then you can look here too to go to other things as well. Let's see. Oh yeah. Okay, let's look really quick. Great question. Let me go back here for a second. Let me move this back over. Okay. So yeah, great question. Somebody asked this. Yes, if you send somebody a message, there absolutely can be notifications set up, and you go up to the same place. You go to your account, and then you're going to go to settings, and then you'll see something called notifications. And this is where you can come to determine what you want a notification sent for. So here, for example, I have set up that I want a notification by email every time I get a new message through my CentralReach account. I also want to get a message when any of these things happen, a task was added or changed or whatever. So you can set this up how you want it. What's very important is that these emails are going to go to the email that is currently on record in your CentralReach account. So we want to make sure those emails are accurate and up to date, because that's where these notifications will come to. And basically what the notification looks like, let's see. I did a quick picture of it to show you, but the notification will just let you know that you've gotten a message, but you have to turn that on. So you have to turn that on in your individual account. So if you're an employee, so say you're an ABA therapist in the field, and you want to get a notification every time you get a message, you're going to hop into that where I just showed you, set that up for yourself, and then you'll get this little notification that's going to show you exactly that you've gotten a message, or it will tell you you've had a new task added, whatever it is. It's going to give you a notification that that's happened, and then you can follow up and hop into your account. And you can log in right from there. Yeah, and what I'm going to do is for some of these questions, probably going to type out some answers because I can't get to all of them. There's a lot here, but I'll make sure I get back to everyone. We'll get answers to everybody. I'm not sure what you're asking. So somebody asked a question about our conversations that take place in the CR email archive. So are you talking about in actual CentralReach email, or are you talking about the messaging system? That's the question I'm having. I'll wait to see if I get an answer. But I can follow up too on these. I can follow up with people individually. It might be easier. I'm trying to find questions that are maybe more general that more people will want to have, will need. Yeah, I think that's good. So I think we'll answer the rest of these questions. There's some individual specific things that people are asking about, and we definitely can follow up those directly. We'll type those responses. But I think this is kind of, like I said, the first step in setting up some HIPAA compliant procedures, and then we'll be doing some further webinars to address some more specifics and how CentralReach can help you ensure that you're staying within those HIPAA regulations. Okay. Thanks everybody so much for attending. We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to kind of the next in the series. And again, we'll follow up with these questions. If you have specific questions about anything we've talked about, great way to get an answer. Submit one of those support tickets. We'll be happy to show you if you can't figure out how to set up the notifications or how to use messaging. Just send in a support ticket, and our team will be happy to reach out and make sure that we answer those questions and we help you utilize all those features within CentralReach successfully, okay? Everybody have a great day.
Have a great day, everybody.